that the production quality of these videos is crap. That there are a lot of like shit posting on my part. So don't don't take like everything that I write and put out on video like I put hours of effort into it. I am just crapping out my thoughts onto the internet, and I'm not putting a shit ton of effort into it, but maybe at some point I'll actually go into full, bread tube mode and actually get a good camera and a good microphone. So with that in mind, I can definitely see why some of you thumbs these goddamn videos down, because I guess you do feel like personally insulted that I'm not actually putting in the fucking effort to actually put something together. So no hard feelings anymore. But the U.S. government indicted, members of the Team Executer, and I thought that this was a bunch of crap, so I went and ordered, and as you can see, the freaking people that want to fucking turn shit in, you know. But yeah, I went and ordered a thing just because solidarity with Team Executor, and the U.S. government thinks that this will discourage piracy. Oh, by the way, I'm on a logless VPN, so big fucking whoop. I can tell you one thing, fundamentally what it just in case you think that I'm going down for this. What is my IP address? See, that is definitely not my IP address. I am definitely not in Seattle, Washington. So thank you ExpressVPN. So I'm grabbing them there, and in SAS NZB, off Usenet, and I grabbed a few there and off the eye, and I'm grabbing one off like ROM Paradise or whatever. I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah, I am Setsuna, so it's got 41 minutes left. All this was done to take revenge on the U.S. government for indicting Team Executor. You know, and what is it that I wanted to say to the prosecutors and to the prosecution in this whole ordeal? It is essentially this: uh, you're not going to win the war on piracy. See, because it's a little bit like the war on drugs, in the sense that as long as you have demand for something, which is, people are going to want content that they didn't pay for, you know, there will always be somebody that finds a way to supply it to them. And, at the end of the day, with a drug like meth, for instance, I would love to see them be able to wipe out the entire supply and make it impossible for anybody to produce any more of it ever again. I would love to be living in that world, to be completely honest with you, because it is a drug that has already personally affected my life, and I've got a backstory with it in particular, and it isn't something that I've ever touched, and that I have no interest in. I have no interest in this drug at all. I wouldn't touch it with a 30-foot pole, to be completely honest with you. No interest in using it. My interest was, maybe a little bit of a stimulant, but not to the same extent with Molly, with MDMA. But that was pretty much the extent of my dalliances when it came to drugs and things that I'm still like I miss as far as having sobered up. You know, so I don't personally want to go anywhere near meth at all. The thing is that from my vantage point, the government's fighting a losing war on meth on crystal meth though, and it just I mean it's not that I don't want to combat the idea of people getting addicted to it. It's just that I don't think that you know having the police deal with the problem is going to really alleviate the problems that are associated with crystal meth, and that I think that what you really need to do is to educate people to use the tax revenue that we would have spent enforcing those laws on education and giving the kids an actual education so they can be living the kinds of life that they would have to be living in order to not even be tempted to use the drugs in the first place. You know, actually educate our youth, give them access to higher education instead of throwing people behind bars for selling and dealing in this particular substance because you're not going to win. You can't stop when you have this much demand for a product. There's always going to be somebody that finds a way to supply it. You can't shut down something that America actually wants. It doesn't work. Even if you pass a bunch of laws and start throwing people behind jail in jail for it and such, because this country has too much capital, for everybody and their brother not to be tempted to go into production, and start selling it and pushing it on the market. It's just always going to be a temptation that exist, and there are always going to be opportunists that come in to fulfill that niche. And my frustration and anger towards the U.S. government when it comes to piracy is just that you're going to bust one group and five more are going to fill in the gaps for where they were, which means that you are taking taxpayer money and you're basically setting it on fire. Because from the perspective of somebody that doesn't, have a shitload of money, that shit is pretty much precious. And what do you do? What do you do with it? What do you do with the taxpayer resources but fight a pointless, petulant, battle that you can't win? You already, on some level, have to realize that the pirates have won, in the long run, and that you're playing a game of whack-a-mole, against an adversary that you cannot defeat. And that means all that money, all of it, is being, wasted and deployed towards bullshit. Why don't you actually do something useful and you know spend your time in investigating the rape kits that have turned into a huge backlog in your police departments? Why don't you spend time investigating the unsolved murders and such instead of going after the low hanging fruit? Is it just that you think that you can shake us down for money? Do you really think that we've got you can throw your fines at us, you can do what you want, but people wouldn't be pirating in the first place if they had a lot of money to afford you know a lot of legitimate content. I mean, it wouldn't be happening. So your little shakedowns of a group of people that doesn't even have enough power or resources to really effectively fight back is the opposite of heroic. You are a bunch of fucking spineless cowards who are wasting taxpayer resources on a fight that you can't win when you really should be going after the real evil in the world. Why don't you throw some money after actual rapists instead of bullying people who are too tiny to even fight back?